Welcome to AutoTruth, revealing the road ahead.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the maintenance-free EV brake myth and unpacking the real science behind this tech. You know, if you drive an EV or a hybrid, or maybe you're thinking about getting one, you've almost certainly heard the pitch. You'll basically never need to replace your brakes. Sounds amazing, right? Well, as we're going to see, the reality of the situation is actually a lot more complicated than that.
Just listen to this real quote from a pretty frustrated EV owner. It perfectly captures the totally unexpected reality a lot of drivers face with regenerative braking. They found out the hard way that their high-tech braking system was severely limited for most of the year just because of the weather. It's a huge wake-up call. Because despite being an absolute marvel of modern engineering, Regen has some very strict physical and environmental boundaries.
Section 1. The magic of Regen. Capturing wasted energy. Okay, before we get into the limitations, we really need to establish the brilliant engineering behind how these systems harness wasted momentum. To really appreciate the innovation here, let's take a quick look backwards. Traditional friction braking is, well, it's essentially an energy disposal system. It clamps physical pads onto metal rotors and wastes massive amounts of kinetic energy by just blasting it as heat into the atmosphere. Regenerative braking completely flips that script. If you've ever driven a manual transmission, Regen feels a lot like engine braking, but it's way stronger and much smarter because it actually captures that lost kinetic energy and turns it right back into stored electricity.
This whole process happens in a 5-step journey that kicks off the exact millisecond you lift your foot off the paddle. First, you ease off the accelerator. Instantly, the vehicle's brain, the inverter, tells the electric drive motor to resist the forward rotation of the wheels. And right at that moment, the motor actually transforms into a generator. The kinetic energy from those spinning wheels becomes electrical energy, which is routed safely by the battery management system straight into the high-voltage battery. Then if you need to stop faster than the motor can handle, the traditional friction brakes automatically join the party.
And the impact of this is absolutely massive. By capturing 60 to 80% of the deceleration energy that would have otherwise just vanished as heat, this seamless background process extends your real-world driving range by a remarkable 10 to 30%. Seriously, if you're stuck in stop-and-go city traffic, this system is constantly feeding free energy right back into your car. Section 2. The battery life connection. Charging on the go. Now, capturing all that kinetic energy actually has a huge, unexpected impact on the health of your high-voltage battery. You'd think constantly charging and discharging would wear the battery out way faster, right? Well, the data tells a completely different story. To understand why, we've got to talk about depth of discharge. Research shows that by partially refilling the battery during deceleration, regenerative braking actively lowers that depth of discharge. Essentially, by feeding these short, quick bursts of energy back into the system, the battery just doesn't drain as deeply during a trip. This can significantly extend the battery's overall life cycle. So Regen isn't just saving your brake pads, it's actively protecting the most expensive component in your EV.
And the tech is literally getting smarter every day. To maximize this battery-saving recovery, engineers are now throwing advanced AI into the mix, using things like fuzzy logic controllers and neural networks. These AI systems dynamically distribute braking force on the fly, and they've achieved some truly mind-blowing regenerative energy recovery rates. We're talking exceeding 53%. The car's quite literally learning the absolute most efficient way to slow you down.
Section 3. The Brake Blending Challenge. The invisible handoff. Behind the scenes, though, there's a massive engineering hurdle that most of us drivers never even notice. The vehicle has to flawlessly blend two entirely different physical forces so your brake pedal actually feels natural. And trust me, this is incredibly difficult. Without a direct mechanical link in modern brake-by-wire systems, engineers have to figure out how to stop the pedal from abruptly softening or stiffening right when the friction brakes take over from the electric motor. If this handoff is clumsy, it doesn't just feel terrible to drive, it can actually compromise your vehicle's anti-lock braking and stability control systems. Section 4. The Regenerative Braking Paradox, the rusty reality. So, here's the crucial point. All this incredible efficiency introduces a totally silent, counterintuitive mechanical liability that shocks a lot of green vehicle owners. Because those physical brake pads are so rarely used with any real force since the electric motor is doing all the heavy lifting, undisturbed moisture, humidity, and winter road salt just sit there on the cast iron rotors. What starts out as a totally normal thin film of surface rust ends up penetrating super deep into the metal over time. Because the pads aren't aggressively scraping those discs clean like they used to, it creates severe pitting, flaking, and an entirely new, potentially dangerous maintenance headache.
So that whole maintenance-free dream, yeah, it can quickly turn into a nightmare at the mechanic. Unprepared drivers are routinely getting hit with dealership repair bills ranging from 750 to 1,700 euros just to replace seized, heavily rusted brake components. And the kicker? They're forced to replace these parts long before the friction material on the brake pads actually even wears thin.
Section 5. How it actually works. System limitations. To avoid those nasty financial surprises and protect our vehicles, we really need to shatter a major myth right now.
We have to stop thinking that regenerative braking always operates at 100% capacity. It just doesn't. Your EV's battery is governed by some very strict chemical realities. If your battery is sitting at 100% state of charge, or if it's soaking in freezing cold weather, it physically can't not safely accept rapid charging currents. When this happens, the vehicle will intelligently display an informative warning on the dashboard to let you know that regen braking is temporarily reduced. That means your physical friction brakes are going to have to step up and do the work.
This breakdown brilliantly illustrates exactly when the software relies on the motor versus when it forces those rusty physical friction brakes to save the day. At medium speeds with good grip, regen is doing the heavy lifting, but if your battery is cold, if you're just crawling to a stop, or if you absolutely slam the pedal, the friction brakes completely take over.
Section 6. Maximizing your EV brakes. Actionable driving tips. Let's bring all this high-level engineering back to the driver's seat with a few simple everyday habits.
To protect your vehicle, extend your range, and prevent that awful rust buildup, first, scan traffic early. By looking further ahead and easing off the pedal sooner, you give the car way more time to slow down on regen alone, which maximizes your battery recovery. But here is the absolutely most crucial tip to beat the paradox we've been talking about. Remember to occasionally brake firmly. Seriously, you have to give those brake pads a chance to clamp down hard and scrape the rust right off your rotors. And always trust your ABS in an emergency. Just press firmly and let the blended system do all the complex math for you.
So, let's pull all this together. We've looked at how capturing kinetic energy boosts battery life, the sheer complexity of that invisible brake handoff, the system's limitations in the cold or when fully charged, and of course how to beat that rusty brake paradox with proactive driving. But all of this leaves us with one incredibly fascinating question for the future. With predictive technology advancing so rapidly, allowing autonomous vehicles to perfectly time their deceleration, it makes you wonder, will future vehicles ever need physical brake pads at all? Or are we going to be forever tied to the friction of the past? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Get the truth about your ride. Subscribe to AutoTruth today.